Greetings Samurai, FiOth here, and in this guide I'm gonna show you how you should set up your Tonfa, in my humble opinion of course, in order to maximize its effectiveness. I will not be posting any in-depth build analysis in this vid, just the weapon itself and how I consider the perks to synergize in order to get the most damage and consistency out of the weapon itself. I will suggest you use specific perks for PvE and specific other perks for PvE. My Tonfa here is a bit middle of the ground, so I will be explaining what you should have in one case or the other case. So without further ado, let's get to it. My Tonfa and your Tonfa as well should be Sarutobi's gun sticks. The reason for that is this unique perk here, the Tonfa gun, that allows you to perform extended combos when using the skill Devastation. So Devastation is the final blow in a specific string that allows you to use the guns attached to the Tonfa to cause huge amounts of damage in any unlucky enemy that comes in front of you. So it's a no-brainer for me to use this specific Tonfa, but for you it might be something else. Problem with this is that with the Tonfa gun here and the set, leader of the 10 Braves here, we're left with 5 slots, so we have to make the best we can with just 5 slots. Close combat attack damage 20% is a no-brainer that should always be on your weapons. Use it by inheriting it from another piece of gear or just temper with your weapon in order to get it in a slot. If you don't find it in a temper roll, just swap up the other perks and try to temper again. It will probably show up in the rotation. CDA skill, no-brainer, since it is CDA skill by itself at B+, so stacking with A+ here maximizes the damage and optimizes the weapon's effectiveness. You should be going for wind here. The reason is, in Way of the Wise, and the footage you just saw was all from Way of the Wise, enemies deal huge amounts of damage that you really wouldn't want to be at the receiving end of it. So by using wind, you can apply it on yokai and you can apply it on enemies in PvP as well to reduce their attack numbers. Problem is, you will not have a spare slot to put weaken melee weapons. That is also very useful against both yokai and human enemies. Problem with that is, if you're intending on PvPing, you will find lots of tryhards out there with ethereal equipment that is resistant to weakening. So it is a bet, you should choose what you want. Wind is pretty universal. Weakened melee weapons is more oriented towards enemies that are exposed to it, so pick either of those, or if you don't like weakening your enemies' attack values, don't pick wind and pick whatever you like. Just an elemental perk here or the weakened melee weapons one. It's your choice. What I really consider to be the best idea when using Tonfa is the increased damage from consecutive attacks and have it at A value. As you saw in the previous footage, Tonfa has some pretty huge combos, and since on the 6th attack you're getting the maxed benefits during a string when it comes to added damage, performing those huge ass combos on enemies, especially yokai who cannot block your onslaught, will disable and mess up even the toughest of opponents. Of course, it is not the best choice if you just gonna go for 2-hit devastation combo follow-ups. So if you wanna use a devastation heavy build, swap this for a forged Sarutobi's gun sticks with a star at skill damage devastation plus 25%. You either have to be very lucky for it to drop with the added damage perk, or you will have to forge it in the forge and have the star perk from the get-go. Last but not least, parry disabled when guarding against Tonfa. Now, if you are using the leader of the Red Braves 4-piece, you will be getting it from the set anyway. So in this case, don't have it on the weapon. But if you don't use this and wanna PvP, as in all weapon cases, you have to have parry disabled against the weapon you're using, or your attacks will just clang off the enemy's guard and you will be left exposed. If you're not gonna PvP at all and you don't have trouble in taking down human opponents and revenants, or maybe you're using an Odachi, well, as I do here, when fighting specific types of enemies, don't bother with this perk and go for something that will be more consistent for your type of gameplay. As I said, you might want to have the devastation perk damage increase here. You might want to have reduce key reduction when you're blocking something, etc., etc. This will be up to your choice, and you will have to consider what type of gameplay you want to approach, and if you're going for PvE or if you're going for PvP. I will be posting a video at the end of this one explaining how you can go into the devastation follow-up combos, so you will know how to utilize the very powerful attack. So summing it up, close combat damage plus 20%, a no-brainer. Change to attack skill, a no-brainer. Wind or weaken melee weapons to lower your enemy's attack values for PvE and PvP. Increase damage from consecutive attacks at A if you are not using the Leader of the 10 Braves 4-piece. And disable parrying against Tonfa, especially if you're gonna play PvP using Tonfa. So this is my suggestion for setting up your Tonfa, people. I'm covering everything I can get my hands on Defiant Honor. Have been a bit busy in the past few days, but I'll be back in full force in the following week. So subscribe, like, and share if you found it useful. And until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers.